welcome the next speaker. Dr. Rushad Shroff will be talking about customized lasers for the normal and complex cornea.
Am I audible? Yeah. So at the outset, I would like to thank Pooja for inviting me for this talk. So we've known that customized treatments are there. Initially, they were used. I'm going to be talking mainly about topo-guided treatments. Initially, the concept was to use it for aberrated corneas, and gradually we went into using it for relatively normal corneas as well. So the concept is that most aberrations arise from the anterior surface of the cornea, and I'm going to start off with the treatment for primary treatments in normal corneas, and therefore the concept came about for using Contura Vision for myopic correction. The advantage of topo-guided treatments are that they are not limited by the size of the pupil. It corrects errors produced by more peripheral aberration, is not subject to error produced by corneal lenticular vitreous opacities, and not affected by the state of accommodation. Now we have the main point or the crux of the matter where we get into a dilemma is when the manifest refraction is not matching the cylinder on the topography device, and that's where we have these various different options. You either treat the manifest or you treat the measured cylinder and axis, making adjustments for spherical equivalent. You can split the difference between the measured and the manifest cylinder, treat on the measured axis and adjust for spherical equivalent. Well, we have started using the Phosides analytic engine more and more for our topo-guided treatments, and I'll explain why. So Phosides is a planning software that uses geographic imaging systems to analyze the 2D corneal topographic treatment image produced by the Contura planning laptop, and it pulls out detailed information about this. Now, the main concept of this is a talus. A talus is a secondary elevation that is present on the primary elevation. If you see these darker areas in pink in the middle image, those are the taluses that are present over the primary elevation. So the Phosides actually, the place where it scores over other things it makes it very simple. The engine actually tells you kind of what to do. And we'll go through a planning of a few cases on this. And I'll just come to how it uses data from not only the topolyzer but also from the Steinflug camera from your Pentacam, and you can use this to come up with a final vector treatment which takes all these matters into consideration. This is the paper by Dr. Lobanov et al., which showed that the Phosides did a little bit better than the traditional Contura nomogram in terms of lines of vision gained. So this is the first case I'd like to show, where the subjective refraction is a -1 with a -2.5 cylinder at 95. This is the Pentacam, looks like a reasonably normal looking scan. And the topography shows an astigmatism -1 diopter in the right eye and -0.4 in the left eye. This is the planning system of the Phosides. You can feed in the target refraction, which would be 0. The manifest refraction can then be fed in, which we saw was -1, -2.5. The Contura recommended treatment is what the topolyzer measures, and the topographic anterior corneal negative cylinder and the posterior corneal negative cylinder is actually taken from the Pentacam. You can see these elevation points, these highlighted in white, those are the taluses which it's actually taking into consideration. And the reason it does this is because these can have a bearing on the cylinder that you're actually treating. So there we fed in the values from the Pentacam for the anterior and the posterior. It takes these into account as well. And this is what it comes up with. It gives you a recommended treatment, which is taking into consideration all these different vectors. So if you can see those arrows on the left side of the screen, the manifest refraction astigmatism is shown in the yellow arrow. The internal astigmatism is shown in the red arrow. The very small arrow at the bottom, which I'm not sure is very, very clear in purple, is the talus astigmatism, which is being caused by those secondary elevations. The corneal astigmatism is measured in the green. And then it creates a composite, which is the final treatment, the final magnitude and axis that the treatment should be applied based on the vector analysis. And in this particular patient, in the right eye, we went ahead with what the Phosides actually recommended. And you can see this is the ablation profile that it's actually recommending, and then we got a fairly good outcome. The second case is that where the subjective refraction, it's a purely cylindrical power in the right eye. The K1, K2 on the pentacam show about a difference of about 4.7 diopters. In the left eye, again, it's showing about 3.9. And the rest of the scan looks fairly normal. This is on the eye trace system, looking at the refraction, that the tracy refraction is showing a little bit of a higher cylinder in both the eyes. The topolizer refraction is this, it's showing a minus 0.78 with a minus 5 in the right eye and a minus 0.64 with a minus 4.83 in the left eye. So here again we looked at the Faucetti's planning system. This is the composite that it gave. The axis of the cylinder was generally matching closest to the subjective refraction, and that is what we finally went ahead with. And this is just a summary of the two. This outcome you can see, we ended up with a 0.62 plus cylinder at 26 degrees in the right eye. The left eye was a little bit off that treatment. However, the patient did have 6/6 in both eyes. This is the post-op eye trace refraction. This is yet another case. These slides are courtesy Dr. Gaurav. So this is a patient with a -2 sphere, -2.75 cylinder in the right eye and a -2.5 with a -1.5 in the left eye. This is the pentacam of the patient. Now here the axis difference between the manifest and measured is about 17 degrees. And this is where the Faucetti's actually flags this. It tells you that, look, it's probably better to stick to your wavefront. So it's actually telling you this. It's mentioning Faucetti's recommends converting to wavefront optimized in this case. And that is what we eventually, I think Dr. Gaurav eventually did do that in this case. And he had a reasonably good outcome. So the Alcon nomogram suggests the difference should be less than 10 degrees if the refraction cylinder is less than 2 diopters. The Faucetti's itself in this particular case recommended switching to a custom Q or a customized treatment, which gave a good outcome. So probably when you have a high variation, it would still be better to stick to the manifest cylinder, and the Faucetti's makes it a little easier because it tells you what to do. So burning question, we analyzed our data of topo-guided versus a wavefront. We did one eye wavefront versus one eye topo-guided, and we didn't really find any statistically significant differences. You can see the sphere, cylinder, MRSE corrected and uncorrected visual acuity was not statistically significantly different in the two groups. Again, the Q value or the asphericity was not found to be statistically significantly different. And the aberration profile, though there was a trend in some of the aberrations, we did not find any significant difference in this. Now coming to abnormal corneas like keratoconus, where we combine lasers with cross-linking, we have to understand that the laser here is a regularization procedure. You're not trying to actually treat the refractive error. So these are the various different treatment algorithms. You have to see that the corneal thickness is above 450 microns, and that's where you can actually combine either intact rings or intracorneal ring segments or PRK with cross-linking. And these are the various different protocols which have been described in literature to kind of do topo-guided treatments. We have the Alcon system, so I'm going to be talking about a couple of cases that we did on that. This is a 26-year-old lady with refraction in the right eye of a +1, -5 cylinder at 60 degrees with the best corrected of 6/12. We stuck to the topo-guided. It's important to have good quality scans. You exclude the scans which are not of good quality. There should be good enough exposure. You have to make sure that the nose and the eyebrow are not blocking the points that the machine is measuring. So the first thing is to set the sphere and cylinder to 0, and you can see that there's still some amount of ablation. There's a maximum ablation of 43 microns and a central ablation of 24 microns. Even when you've set the sphere and cylinder to 0, that's just for regularization of the cornea. We gradually increase, so what you do is you try to treat the cylinder as much as possible, and you see that you're not exceeding a maximum ablation of about 50 microns. And you can see that there's a difference between the central and maximum about 15 microns, which would induce about a diopter of myopic shift in these patients. And we gradually went up on the cylinder, making sure that we did not cross the 50 microns limit. So this is the post-operative result of this patient. You can see that the topography has got much better in terms of the regularization, although the corneal thickness obviously has reduced a little bit. TREC is something that the group from Narayan Nethralaya has published on. it's customized removal of the epithelium and a little bit of stroma. This can be achieved on the Schwind platform, where you actually just shave off a little bit of the stroma in the cone area along with the epithelium, and that tends to work well. After that, followed by a cross-linking to regularize these corneas. To conclude, topo-guided treatment provides excellent results, especially in high astigmatism. It shows, in our study, it showed a trend towards lowering induction of high-order aberrations, though this was not statistically significant. Forsades made the whole planning process for topo-guided treatments easier, and topo-guided treatment combined with C3R is a useful modality in corneas with adequate thickness, although it is, sometimes you do not get exactly expected results, so you have to be a little careful which cases you choose for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Excellent talk. Couple of questions. One is Forsades something that you that is by default now for all topo-guided cases, or do you go for it when you have some variation between manifest and topographic astigmatism?
No, so if I'm doing topographic guided treatment, then I go for Forsades. I generally do use that because, like I said, it makes the whole planning a lot easier. Again, the results of even wavefront optimized are pretty good, so I don't know whether we are splitting hairs with this, but I did not find any statistically significant difference in doing a one-eye wavefront optimized versus a one-eye topo-guided treatment, actually.
Sure. And in keratoconus, what's your optical zone that you usually choose?
So I try to keep it 6. I do drop it down to 5.5, but it's basically for seeing how much tissue you can spare. You'll vary it according to that. I wouldn't go less than 5.5 in the optical zone, if possible. So I would not, if I have to reduce it less than that, then I would stick to just a C3R and not do a topo-guided.
Thank you. Any comments?
Just very, excuse me, very nice presentation, and also, sorry, also nice to see. I also have found no significant difference between wavefront for routine eyes.
Yes.
Wavefront optimized.
Yeah, these were routine eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And where topography guided, of course, shines in a sense is that it helps. It's improvement, not perfection, is with those irregular corneas. So thank you.